Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden.
You are listening to Catholic Family Podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Lisa Davis with another Catholic Momcast. I imagine that if drones existed when I was a preteen, our neighborhood in the suburbs of Virginia, with its square after square of lush green lawns, would have looked from the sky like a gigantic quilt of yards, bordered with tastefully planted azaleas and dogwoods and painted white brick border fences. If dandelions existed in this quilt, we kids didn't notice because we were too busy running, rolling, and roughhousing all over them. I can't say I ever paid much attention to lawns when I was growing up, unless there were stickers in them, until we moved to Colorado when I was in my mid-teens. On the high desert that is eastern Colorado, you have to work for a lawn, and my dad somewhat reluctantly did what was necessary to keep a respectable patch of green, healthy enough that we seldom saw weeds encroaching. Then I married my husband, who had grown up in Southern California, where a lawn is, if not a mark of status, at least a proof that you were a responsible citizen of the community who cared enough to not ruin the property value of your neighborhood. Our first couple of houses in the Denver suburbs after we married had fairly small yards, and the quest for the unbroken green palette of lawn required a bit of effort, especially during the drought years in Colorado, but it was doable, and Dan the lawn man did what he could. Bindweed and purslane we could banish with a few tugs, and dandelions, though peskier, never seemed to be a big problem. When we moved out onto our hobby farm, we were able to fence in one perfect little side yard that we planted with beautiful turf, expensive but very satisfying, and virtually weed-free. A dandelion wouldn't dare show its head there, and our vegetable garden was all carefully managed raised beds. No dandelions there either. If bindweed or dandelions or purslane or curly dock showed up outside the yard and garden fences, and the goats or geese or chickens didn't find it, well, more power to it. Dandelions were determined enough to dot the prairie like freckles, and our 4 little girls made necklaces and crowns with them and filled little jelly jars with dandelion and red clover bouquets to give the Blessed Mother. No greater purpose for any flower. Never say weed if it's placed at the feet of Our Lady by a child. Fast forward to now, and our 3 acres in the hills of Iowa. Pretty much any seed you throw on the ground here grows. Flowers, vegetables, fruit, shrubs, trees, everything thrives. And the same happy coincidence of sun, moisture, and fertile soil that smiles on plants we want also smiles on plants we do not want, which, of course, includes dandelions. The actual definition of a weed is a plant that grows where it is not wanted. And we've wrangled with a bazillion unwanted plants that sprang up in the carefully landscaped flower beds we inherited, including things like overenthusiastic purple coneflower colonies and violets that want to overthrow the earth. The lawns presented very little trouble when we first moved in. But the little freckling of dandelions we started out with 6 years ago have turned into my husband's worst nightmare. Several hundred games of volleyball and cars parked on the grass during barbecues have compacted the soil and weakened the grass, and his carpet of green is now pockmarked with great patches of sunny yellow. It's a veritable yellow brick road in some places. You could make dandelion lays for half the citizens of Hawaii. So, being a good wife and wanting to find as natural a solution as I could to help my poor lawn-loving husband reclaim his blessed plot, his earth, his realm, his volleyball court, I trolled the lawn posts of Pinterest and YouTube looking for yellow weed eradication inspiration, and this is what I found, much to my surprise. Those long roots that make dandelions so hard to pull out also serve to loosen up compacted soil. Seems the reason they are so thick right around our driveway is because we've had occasion to use those areas for parking. The fact that the ground is compacted causes these plants to come running to the rescue. When they've done their job and the soil has been loosened up, the number of dandelions are said to peter out to almost nothing. Not only are the long tap roots good for loosening the soil, but they pull nutrients from deep down in the soil, making them available at the surface for your lawn. Dandelions are also an important pollinator for bees and other insects, especially in the springtime, as they are one of the earliest flowering plants. Every part of a dandelion is not only edible, but extremely beneficial for our health. Used since ancient times, they fight everything from high cholesterol to high blood sugar. They're loaded with vitamin C, fiber, potassium, iron, zinc, magnesium, calcium, and phosphorus. They contain vitamin D, B complex, and organic sodium. They have more protein than spinach, and that's just the green parts. The roots support liver health, fight infections such as staph, protect bones, help brain function, balance metabolism, reduce heartburn, and are anti-inflammatory. The flowers help stomach cramps, alleviate depression, improve vision, and provide pain relief from things like backaches and headaches. Dandelions have been used medicinally since ancient times by the Romans, the Greeks, and the Chinese. Not indigenous to the United States, it's believed they were brought over on the Mayflower, not by accident, mind you, but for medicinal purposes. In short, folks, dandelions are a superfood, a gift from God. I look at them entirely differently now, and I can't help but think that with the world going the way it appears to be going, our health and immune systems such a concern, and steak going for $25 a pound and more, we need to take gifts like this seriously. And maybe take a closer look at nuisances in general. Are they really nuisances? Or are they superfood in disguise? When you're barely awake and have no small motor coordination, for instance, and can't get the coffee filter separate, that's a dandelion. When your happy little child, or foo-foo dog in my case, tracks mud in all over your clean floor, dandelion. When you sneeze when you're putting on your mascara, dandelion. Traffic jam on the way to work, dandelion. Broken fingernail, dandelion. Coffee spill on a white shirt, dandelion. Diaper blowout, dandelion. All dandelions of the soul. Dandelions in your lawn might still be pests, but they keep you humble. Aerate your soil and bring vitamins to the surface, whether you'd rather get rid of them or not. If you want to get the full value of all the vitamins and nutrients of these wonder plants, though, you have to do the legwork. Pick them or dig them up, wash them, and prepare them, then absorb them into your system in a salad or something. It's the same with dandelions of the soul. Processed properly, they can do us a lot of good. Don't let them go to waste. Make a salad out of them. And what about poison ivy-type nuisances, you're asking, like stinging nettle? Goat heads, our Colorado friends know about these. Well, that's a whole other Momcast. Seriously. Am I the only one who ponders spiritual and philosophical metaphors while weeding? I have a theory for every weed. There's definitely one place that's near God's heart than the garden. But I do think gardening is not only good for the body, but for the soul. There's an entire poem, by the way, that goes with that stanza you find on garden signs in Hobby Lobby. It's called God's Garden and was written by Dorothy Frances Gurney. And I have to digress for a quick but worthwhile little side trip. There's a wonderful story about Dorothy Gurney. She lived from 1858 to 1932 and was the daughter of an Anglican rector and the granddaughter of an Anglican bishop. In 1897, she married a Church of England clergyman, too. His name was Gerald Gurney, and he was the son of a Church of England clergyman as well. Regardless of the deep family tradition of Protestantism, however, and the pressure they must have borne from practically everyone they knew, in 1919, when they were in their 60s, by the grace of God, both Dorothy and her husband converted to Roman Catholicism, which makes this poem all the more special. It's called God's Garden, and I think you'll recognize parts of it. The Lord God planted a garden in the first white days of the world, and he set there an angel warden in a garment of light unfurled, so near to the peace of heaven that the hawk might nest with the wren, for there in the cool of the evening God walked with the first of men. And I dreamed that these garden closes, with their shade and their sun-flecked sod, and their lilies and bowers of roses, were laid by the hand of God. The kiss of the sun for pardon, the song of the birds for mirth. One is nearer God's heart in a garden than anywhere else on earth. For he broke it for us in a garden, under the olive trees, where the angel of strength was the warden, and the soul of the world found ease. Happy gardening, everyone, and God bless. This is Lisa, signing off.
Someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warn them from below till the